Continuing our conversation now with John Nichols. He is the National Affairs Correspondent with The Nation. And John, I'm interested in this question. We keep hearing that Donald Trump has 85%, he says 96% support among Republicans. Yeah. But in Washington, I'm seeing more Republicans leave than I am seeing stay. How big is the Republican tent these days? Does anybody have any idea?
Sure. That's a question that we can measure to some extent with polling data. And we know that Donald Trump has a core base of supporters that's in the 30s, right? It's of the overall population or overall voting population. It's not, anywhere near 50%, but it's in the 30s. Beyond that, it looks like he can usually count on enough people who don't really like him, may not even approve of him, but will vote for him. That would take you up into the low 40s, maybe even to 44, 45, depending on which poll you're looking at. And so I think that's the answer to your question is the Republican Party at this point is a little bigger than Trump. But it's certainly not, a majority of the population. It's clearly a minority of the population. Now, the challenge for Trump, of course, is to maximize what he's got, right? To get a lot of votes from people who don't necessarily agree with him on everything, but lean Republican, maybe they're traditional Republicans, and then to build out a little beyond that. If he doesn't get to that 90, even 95% Republican support, he's got a problem because our elections in this country, in many states, are very close. That's where I think the Republican convention was mistaken in its approach, because by not writing a platform, by not having some debates, by not showing some ideological differences, they make it harder for some of those folks who don't like the guy to at least say, oh yeah, there's some place for me here. I can come in and be a part of this. And I'm kind of amazed. I have to admit, I am amazed that they haven't made more of an effort to do what frankly Ronald Reagan and the Bushes did, which is at least try to suggest a bigger tent. And I think that's bad strategy. But then, it's very clear at this point that this president has A, taken overwhelming control of this party, and B, is determined to run a campaign based on fear and on division of people. And I think their strategy is more to make people fear Joe Biden than it is to make them like Donald Trump.
John, I'm curious on that issue of fear. I love to study demographics, and this nation is changing. And if you live in North and South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, you are afraid of that demographic shift. Are the Democrats doing themselves a disservice by not trying to define that, hey, guess what? The suburbs are integrated all over the country, so you can't really take them back because that would mean a lot of people wholesale moving out that don't look like you. But there's nothing to be afraid of. We don't have anything to fear but fear itself.
You said it. That's exactly right. And again, when we talk about a political party, you can never do it, just on that party. You have to talk about both parties, and you have to see how they interact and how they respond to each other and compete with one another. And the Republicans have made it very clear where they're at. The Democrats have to give more clarity here. And I think one of the most powerful things in politics is the ability to explain stuff, right? To kind of, it's not just being an argument, but to rise above the argument and to become the explainer. And the geniuses of our politics have tended to be the folks who are really good at that. Franklin Roosevelt, for all of his imperfections, was really good at explaining stuff. Ronald Reagan, for his many imperfections, was very good at explaining stuff. And so there is this ability that some political figures have to, kind of put themselves into a position of authority where there is trust in them. There is a sense, even if I don't agree with them on everything, even if I don't like them, I'll listen to them. I'll hear what they say. In this very chaotic moment, right, where there's so many things that are up for grabs and complex, there's so much uncertainty. I think people look at the future with a lot of anxiety. This is an incredible time in which to explain things and to do so in a clear, calm, smart way. And I think Democrats need to do that, especially on the issue of this country's diversity. And the fact is that we're headed in our demographics in a good direction. This is something positive for this country, and it's actually something to embrace and celebrate. And you know what? I think to just do that, to embrace and celebrate it, is a pretty big deal. And to don't make people feel bad about it, make them feel good about it.
These are great times for journalists, not necessarily great times for the country. John Nichols, thanks for being with us today.